rumors of Dana Altman retirement squashed yesterday. Bubble watch for teams in the Pac-12. And we have spring football on the way. But it is Wednesday. It is Rip City Morning. Super producer Brenden is back from the great state of Florida. He's got a good tan. And we start right now on 620 Rip City Radio.
The home of the OSAA is 620 Rip City Radio. It's time for Justin Myers to wake you up here on Rip City Mornings, 620 Rip City Radio.
And a very happy Wednesday. It is RCM. I'm your host, Justin Myers. Super producer Brenden is safely partitioned on the other side of the glass. Thanks for getting up early with us or staying up late. However you are rolling on this particular Wednesday. A lot of stuff to dive into on the big show today. More and more cuts coming in the NFL. The Seattle Seahawks have finally ripped the Band-Aid off. The Jamal Adams thing was a mess from the beginning. They have ripped the Band-Aid off. They're going to take a bit of a cap hit on that. But talk about the Wizard of Oz move that the Seahawks pulled off. What do I mean by the Wizard of Oz? Pay no attention to that man behind the curtain, right? I am the great and powerful Oz. Because while they gave up a couple of first-rounders for Jamal Adams, an oft-injured and then when was healthy, not good defensive back whose best playing days were behind him, who also, by the way, had problems with the New York Jets, who stunk, and everybody was like, well, maybe it's just Jets culture. And then Jamal Adams came to the Seahawks and was like, no, maybe it's just this guy is not as good as football as we all thought he was. But pay no attention to that bad two first-rounders for a defensive back who cannot defend in the backfield because they won the Russell Wilson deal. I mean, this whole time, you talk about sliding doors moments, you talk about butterfly effects, you talk about how one thing can really affect, if Russell Wilson went to the Denver Broncos in that trade, and obviously clearly, with the 5 picks that the Seahawks got from the Broncos and the 2 players, because I think it was Drew Lock and Fant, I think, were the 2 players.
And Shelby Harris.
Oh, can't forget him.
Who I think played 1 year for the Hawks.
They got the 5 picks out of the deal. You got a quarterback who would ultimately become your backup, so you didn't have to go backup quarterback shopping, and you could actually have a quarterback competition. And you don't have to sign Russell Wilson to a ridiculously high salary, which the Broncos learned was a very bad idea. And I would imagine most fans in Seattle were like, yeah, boy, won that one. Neo in the Matrix, right? Dodged that bullet. I just did a Neo Matrix thing. YouTube, you're welcome. You can see my athleticism. Dodge that bullet. This whole time is like, that Jamal Adams trade. It's not a franchise wrecker because it really didn't involve a quarterback, but when you give up first rounders for a dude that is not contributing, both injury-wise and then when healthy, it turns out he's not even very good at football. Well, I mean, he's incredibly good at football, but in terms of the evaluation of, but every time, Russell Wilson stinks in Denver. We're good, right? Talk about a buffer that John Schneider and Pete Carroll, even though Pete Carroll's gone now, but John Schneider, a little buffer that he gave himself, because if that Russell Wilson thing went a little bit sour, I don't know if Pete Carroll's the only one who was moved to an administrative role. If the Russell Wilson thing didn't work out, I wonder if old John Schneider, GM there, would have been maybe moved to an administrative role. Who knows? Now, we're also very familiar with the ownership.
Blending those 2 words together. But on that point, Justin.
Yes, Brenden, hey, welcome back.
It's good to see you, man. Good to see you.
You got some color?
I know, right?
You got some sun on your skin.
The nose is
You
a
were
little,
down in the Florida Keys.
Yeah,
hanging out with the snowbirds.
Yeah, man, it was nice. I must say, it was tough, Justin. I know
The
you guys
Conch Shell Republic, I believe, is what they call Key West.
Yeah, it was.
There was a Conch Shell rebellion back in the day.
Mm-hmm.
Tried to declare themselves a sovereign nation at one point. And then they were like, yeah, no, you can't do that.
It's like its own little world down there, man. And I must say, Justin, I was thrilled to hear that you guys got snow when I was gone in any shape, fashion, or form. Like my friends that were helping me at the Beaver's Edge website were like, "Oh, Brenden, you must be so sad. It's snowing."
Yeah.
And I'm like, "No, not at all." But no.
It wasn't too bad because it did not stick and it did not shut the city down. And it was kind of like, that's kind of interesting.
Meanwhile,
it's
it was
snow.
It was never less than 80 degrees, which was
just, you were just sitting there on the beach, crushing seltzers. I'm assuming probably not the Red Bull vodka vibe.
Not the vibe.
More
not
of
the
crushing. Like I would say, beers and daiquiris.
Yeah,
you're not the
Pina
biggest.
Coladas.
You're not a beer guy though.
I did have a few beers this weekend. It was again,
whatever was available at that particular point.
I liken it to Hawaii. Everyone's on island time. Everything is a little more slow paced. But to that point, Justin, real quick, back to sports.
Back to Jamal Adams, who's gone now.
Or at least it's been told that, to us, that it was ownership that ultimately said, hey, find the best deal for Damian Lillard. It's time to move on from this.
Yes.
So that tracks, Justin. If you're right, if that had happened with the Russ situation, that tracks. So I think we kind of, we're putting they haven't said anything because Jody doesn't speak, but we're putting the pieces together of how they operate. You know what I mean?
You just go back and that Jamal Adams trade was such a bad trade. It was and the thing that the Seahawks have kind of built their brand on under the Pete Carroll, John Schneider partnership was always, hey, we can get out of guys that other coaches can't. We see not a Moneyball math thing, but almost like we have a different evaluation system. We can find ability where a lot of people find some things that are lacking, and they have worked it worked for a long. There was at one point, I think 3 starting offensive linemen for the Seahawks. You're none of them were offensive linemen when they got drafted. And it was but we see something there and we can make, I think at one point they had do you remember Will Tukuafu played at Oregon?
Yeah, he was a fullback, right?
Well, here's the deal. He played fullback for the Seattle Seahawks. Yeah. Brenden, you watched that Oregon offense when Will Tukuafu was playing for Oregon. Did they have a fullback?
Well, no.
No. They did not have a fullback. Will Tukuafu did not play fullback because Oregon did not have a fullback in the 2010s, right? It did not exist, but he was a defensive lineman, and they're there's some athleticism there. What? And that's how they would. This Jamal Adams thing was it was almost like they flew a little too close to the sun, but. The reason why John Schneider kept his job and the reason why the whole entire organization was not completely panned for this ridiculous trade for Jamal Adams and at last their long local nightmare, not a national nightmare, but the long local nightmare is over because he is going to be released and they're just going to eat the dead cap hit, is because the Russell Wilson thing was going the Seahawks' way. They were on borrowed time for the last 2 years. They were kind of playing with house money. Now it's kind of time to get busy again. And part of getting busy is Jamal Adams, we're done with this. And you get the sense, and now you weren't here. I spent a lot of time yesterday singing the praises of Pete Carroll because I believe Pete Carroll is one of the best football coaches I've ever been around. I'm not saying he's the greatest. I understand that there were pluses and minuses, but Pete Carroll is one of the all-timers, in my opinion. This was a miss by Pete Carroll. And you got the sense that Jamal Adams was kind of Pete Carroll's pet project, that he was the one that pushed for this to go down, and he was the one that pushed to cut because they needed an impact player on defense that they just did not have. And went all in, thought all the pieces were together. Boom, moved it, made injured. Russell Wilson leaves. It's not fitting the system. Couple of defensive coordinators in and out, and now you got a guy released.
Real quick on that too, Justin.
Yeah.
Just because now they've all conveyed and whatnot. So the Seahawks obviously gave up. You mentioned the 2 first-round picks.
It's just so nuts when you think about like what teams value first-round picks, in this league, right? Quarterbacks aren't going for first-rounders at certain times. Like, not superstars because nobody trades superstars, but good quarterbacks.
Right.
Like, what did Jimmy Garoppolo go for?
When he was traded to the
Raiders, right?
To the Raiders, yeah. I think a third or a fourth. But
he's a starting caliber quarterback in the league. And even like Trey Lance. Now, Trey Lance is a backup, and he might get us, but he's second rounder, I think.
But yeah, no, they turn those. Again, I always like to look back and say, is it a win trade? Well, it's even worse if the other team nails the picks and gets good players. The Jets took Elijah Vera Tucker out of USC. Pretty good right guard, solid offensive lineman, but the one that's really impressive with the second pick is Garrett Wilson, who is one of the best young receivers in the NFL that's not named Justin Jefferson or Chris Olave. So, again, I remember at the time it felt forced. Like, the Seahawks were like, they didn't need to make this move, and they did. And, maybe it was to make Russ happy. Maybe Russ wanted a little bit more star power or this or that. But, a safety
either
who
way,
could only blitz.
It was a horrendous trade. And, again, it was masked by the fact that they were winning the Russell Wilson part of it. And, therefore, let's just say the fan base was not as restless and asking for consequences with regard to but it's now over. Rip the Band-Aid off. Moving on, moving forward. So, some other interesting cuts going on around the league. Who is safe? We talked about Russell Wilson a lot yesterday. I kind of hinted at, like, what's ultimately going to be his legacy? Like, what is the Russell Wilson legacy? Because 3 years ago, Seattle's favorite player, generation of kids. He was like with 3 jerseys, and he was their guy. Posters on the wall. If kids still put posters on the wall, all that kind of stuff. But demanded the trade, goes to Denver, gets one coach fired, gets benched, gets ran out of town, all the stuff, all the math we talked about yesterday. Who knows where he's going to end? Like, I cannot remember a non-injury quarterback derailment the way we have seen with Russell Wilson. What's his legacy going to be when we look back? And obviously we're not going to know because we got to guess what the next 4 to 5 years are going to be. He's going to be playing quarterback in the NFL for the next 5 years. Trust me. Somebody's kicking the tires on this guy. Somebody's going to give it another shot. But what is the ultimate legacy going to be of Russell Wilson? We may dive into that. Also, a bunch of other fun stuff. Chip Kelly had some interesting comments. His first public comments as now the offensive coordinator of the Ohio State Buckeyes. And I got a lot of people on the internet talking about responsibility versus personal happiness. And, yes, you heard me right. We will be talking about the state of college football because very interesting words from Chip Kelly, which we're going to be talking about next here on 620 Rip City Radio. All right, as February turns to March, obviously as sports fans, we start looking ahead to March Madness. But in college football, we start looking ahead to the annual tradition that is spring football, right? Hope springs eternal, they say in baseball, right? The beautiful part about spring training in baseball is that everybody's in first place, that everybody has got a chance, even though we have learned from Moneyball and just reality that not everybody has a chance. But in spring training, everything's positive, right? Spring training of baseball, like that's why it's the best as a fan, is there. Pitcher could get lit up for, I don't know, 7 runs in an inning. What do they say? Oh, don't worry about that. He's working on stuff. Hey, he's just working on stuff. Wins and losses don't matter, but the boys are out in Florida and in Arizona having fun in the sun. It's the same thing with spring football. Spring football, every bit of news, other than injuries in spring football in college, every bit of news is good news. Great participation in the off-season workouts. Brenden, everybody's bought in. I'm sure you've heard that down in Corvallis. Well, I don't know if you've been back down there yet, but when you go down to Corvallis for your first interaction with Trent Bray, I'll bet you he says the term, everybody's bought in. Oh, everybody's bought in. Everybody's committed, because it's easy to commit when you don't have opponents, when you don't have losses, when it's not a week-to-week report card of actually how you're doing. This is an evaluation time. This is a program building time. And all the news is good news. Even if you've got a new coach, which Arizona does, Oregon State does, Washington does, UCLA does. Now, normally we talk about, boy, that's a lot of turnover in one conference. Well, that conference is kaput. We don't have that to talk about anymore. But one of those teams here on the West Coast that is dealing with coaching turnover is UCLA. And in one final horror movie scare, Chip Kelly gave us the final bit of excitement in the coaching carousel. A coaching carousel that saw 3 of the 4 college football Final Four coaches go to other schools, right? Saban retires, Harbaugh to the Chargers, and DeBoer to the Alabama Crimson Tide. Michigan, Washington, Alabama. Those 3 big names. New coaches for all of them. And then this is why they call it a coaching carousel, because of the circular. You put in the quarter, you go up, down, and around. Shout out Happy Gilmore. Because then Jed Fish leaves Arizona for Washington. So that opens up Arizona. And was it, who's the coach at Arizona? Where didn't he leave Sacramento?
Brenden.
From Sacramento, right?
San Jose State.
They're one of those places. He leaves San Jose. And, and it's a carousel. Michigan promoted from within. Alabama gets DeBoer, right? One domino to the next domino to the next domino. And then it finally looked like it was going to settle down. And then all of a sudden you start hearing all these rumors like, what is Chip Kelly doing down there at UCLA? How bad has it gotten that Chip Kelly is actively seeking out coordinator positions? This is the guy that's going to be coaching the Big Ten next year. Never mind that UCLA, along with USC, were the catalyst to the destruction of the Pac-12 conference for, a big bag of money, and they were going to be set up financially, regardless if they were going to be set up competitively, but financially they were going to be set up for, I don't know, decades upon decades, $75 million a year, just in grant of rights. You can do a lot of NIL stuff. You can do a lot. Well, Chip Kelly's like, doesn't seem to want to play that game. And I will say this, because I've been lucky enough to interview Chip. I covered every game he coached as a coordinator and as a head coach at the University of Oregon. I was there in Eugene one of the most unique people I have been around. Definitely is his own man. Does it his way.
You saying Burger King? Have it your way, Justin.
Is that? Yeah, Burger King. That is, yeah.
Sorry, I saw a commercial recently. Couldn't help myself.
Man, Burger King, really?
As I said, Chip's having it his way.
Yeah, he does it his way. Yeah, it's like Do special orders upset us? Well, we're going to dive into that. So he leaves UCLA. He goes to Ohio State. And then you're probably saying, Justin, why are you bringing all this up? Well, we all had our own thoughts and ideas. Why on earth would a sitting head coach who's going into the Big Ten, one of the lucky ones, right? One of the lucky ones, as opposed to Trent Bray, who took over Oregon State, who does not have a conference right now, as opposed to Jake Dickert at Washington State, who does not have a conference right now. And Chip Kelly, by the way, who coached the Pacific Northwest, understands both fan bases. One of the lucky ones says, he goes Shark Tank. For those reasons, I am out. NIL, transfer portal, Big Ten. For those reasons, and now he goes. And some might even say not even a lateral move, a step back. And we all had our thoughts. We all had our ideas. Why? Why, Chip? Why would you do that? Why would you do that in the month of February? Well, we finally have our answer. And we're going to dive in. This is a bit of a long clip, but it's important because there was, as anybody that's been around Chip Kelly knows, there's a lot of layers to this. But this is Chip Kelly at the podium. I believe this was yesterday, and in his first public comments as now the offensive coordinator of the Ohio State Buckeyes. Here's Chip Kelly talking about why he decided to make the move from head coach to offensive coordinator.
I do a lot of things other people don't do, so I don't know if that's right or wrong, but I think it started when we were preparing for our bowl game. Ryan Gunderson, who's a great quarterback coach, left to go to Oregon State as the coordinator, so he wasn't there. So I actually coached the quarterbacks during the bowl game, and I just started to think, like, I hadn't actually coached a position since 2008. And then I think my wife remarked, she's like, I haven't seen you this happy in a long time. And to me, the best part of football is football. And so you got to do football and not do some of the things that involve with the head coaching deal. And I had a chance after we beat Boise in the bowl game, and as we started recruiting, just to kind of think about what that experience was like. And then I get to make the decision on what my future is going to be. And so what do I want to do? So I started to look into, is there an opportunity? And it would have been the right spot to go somewhere and just coach a position again and be back with that group. Because I think as a head coach, you sit in on position meetings, but then you're always getting pulled out. And there's other things that are involved with being a head coach. And I think it's more of a CEO operation right now. You know, it's the job and the landscape, as we all know, of college football has changed. So I just thought at the time that, you know, there's a story about John Lennon when he was a little kid that had an assignment of what do you want to be when you grow up? And he said, I want to be happy. And then his teacher said, I don't think you understand the assignment. And his mom said, I don't think you understand life. So I just want to be happy. And I'm really happy coaching a position, really happy to be at this place. You know, it would have taken a special place for me to leave UCLA because I love those players and I love that coaching staff. But to be here with Ryan, I had a great relationship. I've known Ryan since he was a little kid. So I think a lot of things just fell into place that way.
All right. So initial reaction from a lot of people on the internet were, you know, good for him. And you know what? I'll be honest. First thing I kind of thought of was, yeah, good for him. I understand that sentiment. I don't think happiness is anything that comes with a paycheck or with a title or with accolades or anything else. Happiness. There's an old quote that is a quote that I believe so much in. It's in the notes app of my phone. Happiness is not a solvable equation. You think, okay, I get the money, I get the job, I get the wife, I get the kids, I'll be happy. That's not how it works. So, tip of the cap to Chip Kelly, who said, yeah, you know, I wanted to be I wasn't happy, I wanted to be happy. But there is a flip side. Just like the Force and duct tape. There is the responsibility side. If Chip Kelly realized in bowl preparation that he had found his happiness coaching quarterbacks when Ryan Gunderson left and came to up to Corvallis to take over as an offensive coordinator, if he realized when preparing for Boise State that, you know what, this is my happy place. Brenden, you cover Oregon State athletics, right? You pretty carefully.
I dabble.
You dabble. When did Ryan Gunderson, when was he hired as offensive coordinator? Don't need an exact date, just need a month.
It was December.
Oh, month of December of
Yeah.
2023. Got it. Month of
December.
December. All right. So Chip Kelly in December had this great epiphany. I'm coaching quarterbacks. I love this. This is what I want to do. What happened in January when the coaching carousel was going on? Where is the responsibility of a guy? Because here's one of Chip Kelly's greatest gifts. This is one of Chip Kelly's greatest gifts. And I have been under his spell as well. Boy, he can make the media believe he is so deep. And he did it right there with the John Lennon quote. By the way, he's prepared at every press conference. His genius is making it seem like prepared statements come off the top of his head. That's prepared statement. You go back and think of like all the times Chip Kelly talks about things that are like, yeah, I was just thinking about that. But what if we change college football? Like, no, he sat and he prepared it because the question wasn't that. No, but like the question wasn't, hey, Chip, were you happy? It was like, why are you an offensive coordinator now as a head coach? And he had this whole soliloquy ready to go. And you know what? Again, nobody deserves to be unhappy. If you have a move that you can, but as a leader, as a person in a leadership position who took a lot of money, who sat in living rooms of players going, yep, come to UCLA. I'm going to take care of you. I'm going to take care of your kid. I'm going to be there. To then just leave them high and dry in February. Now, this is a bit nitpicky, but this is the Chip Kelly MO. He is a tremendously smart football coach. But he has been able to pull the wool over the eyes of a lot of very smart, strong, tough question media members. Chip Kelly has pulled the wool over their eyes for years. I sat and I watched it happen. Good for him. Yeah. What about the 85 scholarship players who didn't have a coach in February, who went through the transfer portal, open, close? Staying with you, coach. What, like, now I know there's a 30-day window. Okay, I know there's a 30-day window when you change it. But also, what about the players in the early signing period who signed letter of intent to go play for UCLA? That was December. Coach, sign him with you. What about those guys? And you realized in December while you were telling kids, come play for us, you realized like you weren't happy. And you want to do something about your happiness. Your happiness is coaching positions, is just writing up offenses. Okay.
So are you just,
why are you waiting until February?
Is it just,
quit in December?
Is it just the way that he spoke about it? Because I want to compare it to Jeff Hafley. Because I went back and looked. Jeff Hafley, Justin, February 1st.
Yeah.
How much difference does a month really make here? Like, I don't think we were
Brenden, you know this.
I don't know if we were as critical of Jeff Hafley.
Because he left Boston College, and we are on the West Coast.
But hey, no,
if we were in Boston,
totally get it.
If we were in Boston, I might be ripping him up. I also, I've covered Chip forever, right?
And it's valid. I'm curious if you think a month makes a big difference in this
Doesn't
case.
it, though? Because Chip Kelly's not an idiot. He is one of the smartest people in college football. He knew that when he left in February that UCLA and those players were going to have crumbs to pick at from a head coach.
Crumbs.
It's true.
Crumbs.
You've had a bad experience with crumbs. We may talk about that a little bit later on in the program. Apologies for bringing up crumbs.
You're good.
Somebody threw crumbs all over your computer on the flight. Is it to Florida or from Florida?
To
Florida.
That was a great start.
You had muffin crumbs all over your computer.
Yeah,
anyways.
different story.
Neither
Different
here nor
time.
there. But, and maybe it works out at UCLA, right? It's Foster, right? That's who they hired?
Darian Foster?
Darian Foster.
Good running back, you said. Though.
He was a dog.
Yeah. So there you go.
And, and he was the running backs coach, I think, with the Raiders, and he was there at UCLA.
It would have been like if the UCLA went back and hired Gunderson. He was like the Raiders RB coach for like a week.
Yeah, exactly.
And then they're like, hey, come on
but
back.
he was there on the staff. But not all promoting from within is created equal. And I wonder if Chip Kelly would have said, you know what? I realized I don't like this version of college football. Completely understandable. You do not owe anybody anything, except you do owe the players on your roster an opportunity to get the best possible head coach. What if he leaves in December? And Jed Fish says, you know what? I like the Big Ten better than I like the Big 12. I'm going to take over at UCLA. Now, who knows? Maybe Darren Foster is a better coach than Jed Fish. We don't know. But the point is, you left UCLA hanging high and dry. And that would be fine because, again, like I said, you are responsible for your own happiness, and whatever your path is you want to do, that's great. But in 2017, you signed a 5-year, $23 million deal. You got an extension in 2022 and then another extension in 2023 after a 9-3 season in 2022 that was paying Chip Kelly $5.8 million for both 2023 and what would be the upcoming 2024 season. $5.8 million. And you kept that UCLA $5.8 million in your back pocket as a reserve in case you didn't get another job. Timing is everything in college football. Because there's an academic clock. Right? That's the whole wrench in this whole thing. We hear about it all the time, right? Well, why don't they just, like in the NFL, they can't do it. Why don't they have a win? Yeah, because biology class starts in January, right? We can keep pushing the national championship further and further along, but some of these kids have got to take English Lit. Some of them are doing online courses, and maybe it's easier to transfer. I don't know. It's been a while since I've been in college. But if you were unhappy in December, why'd you wait till February? Right? What? Like, why? Why didn't you just say, you know what? I'm going to resign. I feel like the college game has changed in a way that I am not comfortable with. I want to give this roster and this team the best opportunity moving forward to win because I made them promises. But instead, you waited it out until you got the right offer at Ohio State, an offer that wasn't available until February because of this coaching carousel, and you took advantage of it. You made a selfish move. If it was for your happiness, that's great. Good for you. But you don't get to sidestep just a little bit of criticism because you not only took the job of a head coach, which that's one thing, you took the money too. Now, I have seen Chip Kelly give money back. I've seen it. First game, head coach against Boise State, LeGarrette Blount. Some Oregon fan mad about having to go to Boise, wrote him an invoice. Old Chip wrote him a check. And I'm sure if and when they're like a financial situation, but you're not going to sit here and try to sell me on this was a move solely about your emotions and your mental health, which I do not take lightly. If you aren't happy, but boy, what a convenient little, what is it? A golden parachute, I believe they call it. Right now, that's in a different thing. That's when you're actually in trouble and like somebody's going to get fired, but we're going to give them a golden parachute. But man, what a nice little, backup plan. I'm not happy with college football. I mean, I just want to coach. I just want to coach positions. And all right, fine. And by the way, this is nothing new. College football tries to sell people on a selfish move that was actually selfless. No. But man, people are buying it. Oh, good for him. Good for Chip Kelly. Good for putting what's most important first. You could have done it. You could have made a New Year's resolution. You could have made a New Year's resolution, let UCLA and that team have a chance to go and maybe make. They're making $75 million next year. They could have made a competitive offer to probably a lot of coaches across the country. Maybe there's a coach out there that, but you waited till early signing day came and went. You waited until transfer portal came and went. Recruiting, secondary signing period, done. Then you skip town. Nobody determines my happiness. I got it. We got it, Chip. What's going on in January? Well, you were looking for other spots and other places to coach. Yeah. Took $5.8 million last year. You took on the responsibility of a head coach. With that paycheck comes the responsibility. I know with great power comes great responsibility. Uncle Ben taught us that on Spider-Man. But with great paychecks comes great responsibility. You are the CEO of the entity that is UCLA football that trickles down to all the players, including ones, by the way, you said, hey, come play for us, and potentially derailed their careers. All right. We have got Round Ball Rock coming up, but before we get to that, I need to tell you about Oregon's windows, siding, roofing, and bath experts. Who am I talking about? Of course, I'm talking about DeBella. Because in 2024, if you're not like Chip Kelly and don't have a $5.8 million golden parachute, well, probably want to try to save some money. You can save money any way you can, but one of the best ways, updating your roof with solar shingles. That's right. You could potentially pay for that roof with savings to your energy bill plus federal and state incentives. DeBella's got all the details. It is easy. Estimates are convenient, free, scheduled in a time that works for you. They'll bend over backwards to get your business. Plus, they have been featured in Better Homes and Garden, HGTV, accolades from Angie's List and Home Advisors. The workers at DeBella, they're the ones that have earned those 15,000 five-star reviews, 15,000 plus and growing. So, how about zero down and no payments until 2025? That's on approved credit. And contact DeBella today for a free, no-obligation appointment for roofing, windows, siding, bath projects. Update your home to look better and also be more energy efficient. Save some money in 2024. First move, contact DeBella. All right, Blazers back in action tonight. They'll be taking on the Oklahoma City Thunder. DeAndre Ayton listed as doubtful in the game, but Scoot Henderson, Malcolm Brogdon, I believe both listed as out for the Portland Trailblazers. I want to make sure I get that right. Scoot and Brogdon both out tonight, along with Shaden Sharp. But DeAndre Ayton upgraded to doubtful. Questionable is Tumani Kamara, Matisse Thybulle, and Jeremy Grant. So maybe we'll get some rotation guys back and play against the Oklahoma City Thunder tonight. But tip-off is at 7. Pre-game coverage begins at 4:30. There was a full slate of NBA games, including a couple of really entertaining matchups on TV last night. Let's get to Round Ball Rock. Can I be honest? And I want to be Mr. Positive. The sun's going to be shining later this afternoon. March Madness is right around the corner. We got some fun stuff. Masters. It's like, Brenden, I was kind of sad watching NBA basketball last night as I was watching Cavs, Celtics, right down to the wire. Jason Tatum for the win. Foul called, reversed. High drama. Then massive comeback for the defending champion Denver Nuggets to come all the way back, take the lead with Jamal Murray. Kevin Durant hits a big-time shot to tie the game, goes into overtime. Suns would win in overtime, and I'm watching these games going like, when are we going to get a game like that in Portland? We have not had a game like that in 3 years. 3 years.
Considering how great the month of February went, it could be a minute. Justin.
It's going to be – I was so frustrated watching this game going like, there are going to be some close games, but it's not going to be packed house, nationally televised, TNT, right? You got a little sprinkle of it when Dame came back, but we all knew what that was about.
That was like the one game the Blazers said, we're going to try harder than anybody in the NBA's tried all season.
And good
and
for them. But listen, I understand also the part of this is injuries, and it's just massive factor this year. But, man, it was frustrating watching both of those games going like, man, that looks like so much fun being in those buildings, knowing that the playoffs are right around the corner, knowing that all 4 of those teams, right, Suns, Nuggets, Celtics, they all got a potential run to the NBA Finals, every single one of them. I mean, the Cavs beat the Celtics, bust up their 9-game win streak without Donovan Mitchell. Cavs have got a chance. So anyways, that's Justin whining about certain things. Other things in the NBA. I said that I believe the month of March is going to be the month of Wemby. And right after I say that, he goes for 10 points. Now, did have 11 boards, did have 7 blocks, but just 10 points for Victor Wembanyama as the Houston Rockets take down the San Antonio Spurs. Why am I bringing up the Houston Rockets game? Well, Alperine, am I saying that correct? Sengun?
Şengün.
That guy.
First name, not sure, but Şengün, yeah.
Şengün. Well, he dropped in 45 last night.
He is so good. I've said it for a while. That dude is so good.
Where is he from?
Turkey?
Okay.
I think, don't quote me though, I think Turkey.
ESPN does not have his birthplace. Has his birthday.
Turkish basketball center. So there you go.
Oh, he's from Turkey. Okay.
Just another big man from Europe who was dominating.
Was he new Turkaloo? Was he from Turkey? I think he was. He was known as the Turkish Truth.
He was?
He knew Turkaloo. Right. Is Şengün going to upend Turkaloo as maybe the greatest Turkish player of all time?
I mean, you keep putting up numbers like that.
Dropped in 45. Now it's against the Spurs, and the Spurs kind of stink. But anything else of note happened in the NBA last night? Like I mentioned, the 2 games came down to the wire. Pacers beat the Mavs.
Yeah, it was cool.
Luka had a triple-double, but in a loss. Tyrese Halliburton, 19-11.
For a brief moment, Boston looked mortal last night, which I think is kind of interesting. They blew a big lead in that game. I still think the Celtics are the best team in the NBA.
They're so good.
But, man, the Caps might have something, Justin.
And, by the way, don't look now. Here come – now they beat the Pistons, but here come the Miami Heat. Miami Heat are on a heater Other than one loss at Denver, they're on a pretty good run since the All-Star break. All right, we're on a pretty good run because we have got hour number 2 coming up next, 620 Rip City Radio. It is 7 a.m. on a Wednesday morning. Justin Myers with you. Blazers back in action tonight. They'll be taking on the Oklahoma City Thunder at Moda Center. DeAndre Ayton upgraded from out against the Minnesota Timberwolves. He will be listed as doubtful to play tonight. Questionable is Chimani Kamara, Jeremy Grant, and Matisse Thybulle. Malcolm Brogdon, Scoot Henderson, both out for the Blazers tonight. Roster cuts underway in Seattle. Jamal Adams, their long regional nightmare, is now over. He has been released by the Seattle Seahawks along with Quandre Diggs and Will Dissly. So that makes some cap space and some roster space for the Seattle Seahawks. Coming up in hour number 3, we will talk to Tyson Alger, friend of the program, from the I-5 corridor. But hour number 2 of Rip City Morning starts right now on 620 Rip City Radio. All right, welcome back to Rip City Mornings, everybody. Hopefully you are having a fantastic Wednesday morning. 20 minutes from now, the return of Make or Miss. That's a Brenden Slaughter segment. So Brenden Slaughter is not in the building. We have other things going on. So the return of Make or Miss, that's going to be coming up. Stuff I saw on the internet. Which might also turn into stuff Brenden saw in Florida, because it is, not to get too deep, but it is fascinating, this big giant country that we live in. It is amazing that we have something like the Pacific Northwest in the same place that we have got Florida, in the same place that we have Alaska, where Tyson Alger is from, who's going to be joining us in hour number 3. In the same place that we have got Texas, that we have got New York's. It's nuts. We talk about it all the time, about, boy, this country. But it's amazing we're even pulling everything off. Because you went across the country, same place, different world. You were in a different world.
Yeah, I came back with a suntan on my nose, Justin. You can see it. So
I know other places have regional differences and everything else, but it is just kind of nuts when you sit back and think about it. I was here in the trees and the rain, and the snow, and you were in the same exact country in the Florida Keys, just sitting, drinking out of coconuts, I'm sure. Did you drink it? Did you have a drink out of a coconut?
I did not have a drink out of a coconut, but I was in a hammock, so that seems like it counts a little bit.
All right, okay. I feel like hammocks are a bit overrated. Hammocks feel like they should be the most relaxing thing ever. Getting in, getting out, very difficult.
I'll agree to that, yes. Getting comfortable, yes.
Once you're in, kind of stuck. I don't know if I'm, it's been a minute since I've been in a hammock. You were just in one days ago. But I always feel like the epitome of relaxation is like a hammock. And I don't know if it is.
I think it's probably different. Everybody's definition of relaxation is different, and that's why.
You sent me a selfie from a hammock.
I did.
With a drink in your hand.
I did. And, again, for my awesome Pacific Northwest brothers.
Because I was dodging snowflakes. Not sticking, but dodging snowflakes.
For my awesome Pacific Northwest brothers and sisters, some people relaxing is taking a nice hike. For some of them, it's, enjoying the rain. Some it is, going skiing or snowboarding. Mine is being in warm weather.
Yeah, warm weather's great. I'm just thinking, I feel like hammocks are just a bit overrated. It's just a thought.
I wouldn't disagree with that. I'm it was...
give me a lawn chair. Give me a lawn chair over a hammock. All day, every day.
It's kind of just, Justin, imagine your patio, because you have an awesome patio.
I do.
But then, triple the size, have there be a canal with a boat dock that you can be out and just go.
I could build a canal.
Lots of couches that are just outside year-round without a cover because you don't need it. A hammock, it's just, it's a different world.
Mosquitoes got you, though.
Yeah,
what it sounds
they
like.
went after the arms and the ankles pretty bad, man.
Now,
thankfully, they didn't last, even now. They're gone, but
isn't there
it got
a
me
thing
quick.
that, there are some people that, for whatever reason, they just attract more mosquitoes? Is that a thing?
It's a real thing.
Okay. Can you Google it to make sure that we're not just making this up? Because not like I've never been bit by a mosquito, but like, I like you, I've floated my fair share of rivers in the summer, and I've gotten mosquito bites, but I've also been with people that are like, yeah, and like look like they are just completely eaten up. What's the deal on mosquitoes?
Yeah, so again, this is what I thought, so it does confirm. So again, they do, again, it's kind of fascinating. A critter that's, the size of a pinky nail, is this smart enough? But yes, they are attracted to people who have a high metabolism.
All right, that's definitely not me. Ruined that in my 20s.
Emit more carbon dioxide, which would mean more, huffing
heavy breathers, mouth breathers.
Yes,
is what you're
and
saying.
puffing.
Okay, so breathe through your nose.
Those who are pregnant.
All right, that's definitely not me.
Those who work out a lot.
I do work out a ton.
So that goes back to the high metabolism, perhaps, or drinking alcohol.
Okay, so I work out and I drink an awful lot, and I never get. Maybe I should knock on wood because I'm going on vacation in a couple weeks, and I don't want to come back. Watch me just like I'm calling out mosquitoes, like mosquitoes.
Yeah.
Like.
Now, I'll say this from my travels, because you know this, Justin. I seek out warm weather.
Yeah.
I go to, and whether it was Texas during the springtime, Mexico multiple times, Hawaii multiple times, like Justin and I joke, I am Florida Brenden, but I have never been, not that have killed me or anything like that, but I've just never been bitten more than when I've been to the great state of Florida. Yeah. Whether it's no-see-ums or mosquitoes.
Look, there's no free lunch in this world, right? You want February and March 70 degrees, you're gonna deal with some critters.
It's true. But, I said totally worth it. Totally worth it, man. Y'all had snow when I was gone.
Yeah.
Granted, it didn't stick, but it was still falling. I saw the pictures.
It was coming down. All right, so we got Make or Miss coming up. We do have stuff I saw on the internet. And I do want to talk some more about Russell Wilson. I know I've been a bit obsessed with the Russell Wilson thing, but, like, we've never seen this before. Am I missing something here? I'm trying to think of a quarterback that was beloved. And I know even at the end, it was getting a little, it was getting a little uneasy, but there was no lack of number 3 jerseys being sold there in Soto, right? There was no lack of Russell Wilson's merchandise being sold in and around the Seahawks. And then obviously the breakup and everything that happened, and then a complete and utter derailment of a career. Complete and utter derailment. Was Russell Wilson just a little bit too big for his britches? And then the credit that was built up in Seattle was not built up in Denver. And Denver was like, yeah, no. You don't get to act like this here because you're not a very big deal here. It kind of reminds me of like when you go from, grew up obviously in a very small town, and I went to a small town high school, and you were kind of popular, you were kind of a big deal, and then guess what? And then you go off to college, and they're like, yeah, we have no frame of reference for you here. So if you want to act like an idiot, guess what? You don't have years upon years upon years of credit built up. It felt a little bit like that. But we've seen quarterbacks who had a great run and then just it all fell apart. But it was always injuries, right? It was always injuries. Cam Newton was an MVP of the league. Went to a Super Bowl, and there was a truck crash, then there was a foot injury, and was never quite the same. And did he also start wearing funny hats and start dressing a little bit weird? Yeah.
Hey, he did pull off the Wizard of Oz look, I'm just going to say.
Until he got attacked by like 3 high school coaches. But
would you attack Cam Newton?
No.
Dude's what, 6'5", 250? So
all right.
You saw him in a national championship in person. How big was he compared to the rest of that?
I've said this, like, basketball players, like, people do not understand how tall basketball players are. People just don't, like, unless you are there. And, again, we're very lucky that, Brenden runs stats during Blazer games. You've probably been in the locker room to get sound and all that stuff. People do not understand how tall these dudes are.
Oh, I know.
They do not
understand.
Same reason why because everybody on the court is tall. Like Wemby, yeah, get it. Tall.
Yeah.
Alien look. But like Damian Lillard, Steph Curry, those dudes are tall. Like they walk into a normal play, like, well, that's a tall drink of water there. People do not understand how tall basketball players are. Same thing with football players. I do not think people understand how massive football players are. The most impressive in terms of just massive size, I stood next to Jerome Bettis one time. Funny place. You want to know where I stood next to him at? It was on a shuttle bus.
Okay,
I was next to the bus on a bus.
That's pretty funny. I'm not going to lie. That's awesome.
I was in Pittsburgh for a game, riding on the shuttle bus into the players' parking lot, and like I'm there. I'm with my buddy, and there's Jerome Bettis, and I'm like, that is just he's such a large human being. Cam Newton's second place on this list for me of like just standing next to someone going like, that guy is gigantic. But it was injuries that kind of derailed his career. Like Russ had the one finger injury. That was it. Other than that, like he didn't miss games. Like what other quarterback had been to 9 consecutive Pro Bowls, or not consecutive, but to 9 Pro Bowls, 2 Super Bowls, right? Man of the year, beloved by an entire fan base, to 2 years later, not quite sure if he's going to have a starting job, and was never injured? This is unheard of. It's unheard of.
It was the first time it happened to a quarterback, Justin. That's why it's still unique. But again, I go back to now, and again, you never know what happens. But money, and now that everyone seems to think that you can do more with less. And I remember, for me, everyone's got the moment when you started to realize, like, wow, the NFL is a business, and just because a player had a good year last year doesn't mean squat. Because do you remember the year after they made the Super Bowl with Jared Goff's, and he was a Pro Bowler? The Rams just said, goodbye, Todd Gurley. Todd Gurley was the best running back in the league, not named Le'Veon Bell at the time when they were both leading the end. And
But that was for changing, and I hear what you're saying, and you're right, because the whole running back market, but we talked about this. That's statistics, change in philosophy, advanced metrics, budgeting, right?
And there's
no shortage of Super Bowl caliber quarterbacks getting jobs and getting paid, and just out of nowhere.
I think injuries, like you said, were a big part of it. But again, I say this, and maybe now it'll be different. Cam Newton, one of the biggest personalities you'll ever meet, right? And I like it. I like players who have personalities. I don't like coach speak. Yes, I like personalities.
Yeah.
He, Justin, went to the place where personalities go to die in New England.
But
I think that's a part of it.
But he also fell off in Carolina as well.
That's fair.
But
that's fair.
The reason that Cam Newton ultimately was out in the NFL was because injuries led to career derailment. And then never really quite had the same kind of mojo that he had in 2015. Right? Just never. Russell Wilson had one finger injury that cost. Now, some said he came back too fast, but he had one finger injury. Like, that was it. Surgically repaired finger, sat out, I think, 6 weeks. Other than that, not an ankle, not an ACL, not a foot, not a shoulder. Other than some nagging stuff here and there, never. He's the most durable quarterback in the league who is on his way to a Hall of Fame career. One wrong move. I don't know if he's going to be a starter. What?
But do you think
and I'm not saying people are wrong for saying that, and he might not be. I'm just saying this is fascinating. It is a fascinating phenomenon of like we've never seen this before.
Well, and we've
seen it in basketball where players go and they go to the wrong place and then they're unhappy and they get a little disgruntled and everything else. But like this is unlike anything we've ever seen.
I know
all these quarterbacks, like Matt Ryan went to the Colts, it didn't work because he had an ankle injury.
Right,
couldn't run.
I know you disagree on his spot, but could Russell Wilson, if he doesn't get signed as a starter, be in a similar situation? Because you and I have both agreed Cam Newton talented enough to be a backup. the ego won't allow it and too much of a distraction as the backup. So say, hypothetically, Russell Wilson is not signed this year. You told me the same thing. You're like, I don't see Russ as a backup, and I don't disagree. But then when we look at it and go, here's this guy who at 35, you know what I'm kind of getting at a little
here's
bit?
what I think happens. If there is not a team, and the thing, he's going to be able to sign for, I think, $1.5 million.
Okay, that's really cheap.
Yeah. I think that's the veterans minimum.
Enjoy paying that, Denver.
It's less than $2 million is he's going to be able to sign for. So right there, like if you're a team, like
That's probably true.
if a team says, if all the teams go like, no, because there is a little thing of somebody says like, do they really want to do the Broncos that dirty? Because then kind of almost a karma thing that if you were to it screws over Denver. Whereas if you actually give him a real contract, Denver gets some of that back.
But just live in that hypothetical.
But my point is, if that doesn't happen, if you're Russell Wilson, do you A, go as a backup, or B, do the Joe Flacco and just like, I'll wait, somebody's going to get hurt in September. Somebody's going to get hurt, and I'm sitting there with $39 million in my back pocket, and I can play for 1.8. That's what, he's not going to be a backup. It's like, I'll just sit on the couch, do Instagram videos, about faith, family, football, and flying. Remember that one? Care about a lot. All right. We've got Make or Miss coming up. Stuff I saw on the internet as well. More on the way here on 620 Rip City Radio. All right, 1 hour from now, we're going to talk to Tyson Alger from the I-5 corridor. Rumors circulating. Try that again. Rumors circulating about Dana Altman, potential retirement. Was asked about it, I think, yesterday. He said, I'm not going anywhere. So nip that right in the bud. But it's not been a banner year for Oregon basketball, considering the amount of high-level recruits that they have, staring at another NIT unless they make a run coming up at the Pac-12 tournament, the final Pac-12 tournament going on in where is it at? Oh, that's right. It's in Las Vegas. So we'll talk to him. We got stuff I saw on the internet. We got Make or Miss coming up here in just a bit. Spring practice going on, and I'm always curious when first year coaches like Trent Bray is down in Corvallis, like Dan Lanning was a handful of years ago here in Eugene, when first year coaches, the tact that they take with their media availability and with the back and forth, and usually there are two ways. Mario Cristobal was a filibuster coach. Brenden, you ask Mario Cristobal, hey, how'd the game plan look today? And it's going to be, and he would wear you down with a filibuster, and it was an ultimate, because I believe all these coaches, all the media availability is, it's a game to see how can I end this as quickly as possible and then get back to the business of coaching football. It's a necessary evil. You got to do it. You have to meet with the media. But I think most of these coaches, especially the high level veteran guy, like they know, like, all right, here's how. And Cristobal was a filibuster guy. Dan Lanning is a short answer guy. Go look at any interview with Dan Lanning. Short, quick, to the point, to essentially wear out because you can only answer, or you can only ask so many questions before it gets awkward. You've been in those scrubs before. I've been in them before as well. There's a certain point where it just gets awkward. And Dan Lanning speeds up that process by the real fast, like, yep, played well. Mm-hmm. Yep, nope. We want to try to. What's the goal? Got to get better. Is that it? Yep. As a team, just got to get better. All three phases: offense, defense, special teams. Got to get better. And he does it with a smile on his face, and he's always like, I think Trent Bray is a short answer guy. I'm looking. He's not quite there yet, but he's leaning towards short answer guy, not filibuster guy. He's leaning towards short answer guy.
He's always kind of been that way. Like even when we would interview him as defensive coordinator, it was like Jonathan on the same topics, right? Jonathan Smith would speak for 15. Brian Lindgren, the offensive coordinator, would speak for 15. Trent Bray could do it in 5.
And Jonathan Smith was kind of a filibuster guy. He would talk and
essentially bore you to death. So
it's to where you didn't want to ask another question because you knew, like, all right, I don't know if I have got another 8 minutes to sit through this, and therefore that's the end of the game, and he gets to go back to coaching football. That was Cristobal, and like Chip Kelly, he was the fast talker.
Right.
He would talk super
super
fast.
Especially at Oregon. That was his...
Out of the side of his mouth, fast, and you had to kind of lean it. Like, what is he saying? So, like, and everybody would stop asking questions because nobody wanted to be the one guy he snapped at because he would do that as well. That ended it real fast. Some guys rely on the SID, which, for those who don't know, that's a sports information director.
Basically the handler.
Every time there's a coach speaking, you don't see them on camera, but there is a person a step away who goes, any more questions? Which is SID speak for, everybody shut the hell up.
Yep.
We're getting out of here. He gave me the look, not quite the water bottle, signal, but it's a little look like, Any more questions? All right, great.
So
there's that, but like, I think old Trent Bray's I think he's a quick answer guy.
No, and
he's going to be a quick answer guy.
Honestly, and I love it so far. I mean, it's what's that old saying, Justin? Sometimes you just want something different, and he's very different than Jonathan Smith was. So
which is funny.
It's kind of refreshing. I'm not saying one's better or worse, obviously, But like, yeah, it's just different to have someone else, and no one's going to do something the same way. Very much how it was refreshing for you guys to go from Mario Cristobal to Dan Lanning. So,
well, I don't know if all the people feel that way. I think there's a couple of reporters that I don't think old Danny is quite fond of down there.
But the fan base, as a general, though.
From a fan base perspective, 100%.
Right.
But it's funny because I remember, like, Mike Bellotti, he was a coach before social media, right? He was a coach before the iPhone. He was a coach before, and, anybody and everybody could show up with a phone, right? And therefore, you get more questions. More questions mean more dumb questions. But before all that, like, Bellotti would sit and just chat. And, like, I asked some dumb questions when I was a young broadcaster. And, boy, he would answer them with, like, actual interest. Like, oh, man, that's a really good question. It's like, no, it wasn't. It was a terrible question. Every once in a while, he'd get salty. But he was like, I genuinely want to give you guys the information to take that information and put it out to the fan base. But now that we have social media, coaches don't need to do that. Like, now media availability is, like, it's a chore.
You're right.
Back then, it was a tool. It was a tool to be able to use not only to the fan base, but to recruits, to sell the program. Now it's like, no, we sell it internally.
Right.
We put out fun videos on our own, and we use Instagram, Facebook, and for the olds, all of us olds, and then the X.
Yeah.
We use that to sell our program now. And I sit here and I give you guys 5 minutes because they say I have to.
Yeah, I mean, and that's even from my own experience in it, Justin. 10 years ago was first year I covered Oregon State football as a freshman. It was Mike Riley's last year. Just knowing now, it's just crazy to think that there was no rules on where you could watch practice. I very specifically remember my mentor at the time was like, hey, show up to practice. You can be casual, whatever. And he's like, do you want to go talk to Mike? And I'm like, in the middle of practice? He's like, yeah, just go say what's up. And I remember like going up there and being like, hey, Mike. He's like, oh, hold on. I mean, that was 10 years ago only, Justin.
Those policies get put in by coaches who lived a life before social media.
Right.
And then the new coaches came in and they're like, this social media thing is different. Nobody's watching practice ever because all you guys have got phones out and you're going to film my practice and then that film is going to end up on the internet. Like,
that you're looking at the business model of so many.
Yeah, we're not doing
including
it.
my own web.
We're not doing it. All right, let's get to make or miss. Here we go. Also, I noticed Trent Bray, not a hat guy.
No.
Which is interesting.
I don't think he's ever worn a hat. No, I don't think so.
I think that trend is coming around. Dan Lanning's not a hat guy. I don't believe Mario Cristobal was a hat guy. Jonathan Smith, every once in a while?
Yeah, no, he wore a hat a lot.
Hat every time?
Not like press.
Gotcha.
In games, on sidelines, he really wore a hat. Press conferences, not so much.
Gotcha. What would you wear? Because Chip Kelly was a visor guy. Then became a hat guy out of nowhere. You have no cover, visor, or hat. What would you go? You go backwards hat on the show, but
and that's
as a head coach can't go backwards hat.
And that's
defensive coordinator you can. You can't as a head coach.
Let's go ahead and flip the YouTube camera, Justin. Should I get my pencil right here and go Matt Patricia?
No, that guy.
Full. Just like actually, you're right. This is a pen. It needs to be a short pencil. But I think Matt Patricia still wore the backwards hat when he was head coach, Justin.
Yeah, well, what happened?
It didn't
he got
work
fired
out.
in like 2 years.
But no,
I know like Colin Cowherd does the whole quarterbacks, I don't want my quarterback wearing a backwards hat, and then everybody puts pictures of like Tom Brady and Peyton Manning.
Yeah.
I get that. Coach can't wear backwards hat. Can't wear backwards hat as coach.
Can I tell you a really funny story that you're going to laugh at, Justin? When Chip Kelly became head coach of Oregon, and during that stretch, I thought visors were the worst thing in the world.
Well, I understand
because of Chip Kelly. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, visors are the stupidest thing ever.
There's probably a lot of people in the SEC who hate the Nick Saban straw hat. The straw golf hat.
Actually, you know what? You just won. I would coach in the straw hat, man. I would coach.
It'd be a little tough okay, so you'd have to go to the South.
Yeah, that'd be so cool. And then Justin, it was funny. So then Years later, after Chip left.
I think Bobby Bowden was the only coach that actually coached games with the big straw hat.
It's a good question.
A lot of coaches in practice had the big straw hat.
Yeah.
But not in the games.
Right.
Bobby Bowden, I think, was
True.
the only one that did it during games.
But here's a funny joke with that, Justin, is as soon as, and again, very brief time, as soon as Gary Anderson got hired at Oregon State, what did he start wearing?
Small visor, too.
Small visors.
The small visor. Not the big visor.
Yep.
Small visor.
Then all of a sudden it was like, oh, visors aren't so bad. So honestly, I say roll with it. I think a hat looks the cleanest, but give me
There's a lot of head coaches going with the no hat. I think that's a Saban thing.
Yeah.
I think because you look at Dan Lanning, Mario Cristobal, like they all came from the Saban coaching tree.
True.
Saban, never a hat on the sideline during games. Now, Kirby Smart also came from there, and he goes wide visor. He goes like fat visor.
What if Dion wore a cowboy hat during a game?
I mean, it wouldn't be unprecedented. That used to be like Darryl Royal, the old school coach down at Texas.
Did he really?
He used to rock the cowboy hat.
Okay, so that's kind of cool too.
Like we need Bum Phillips, I think, with the Houston Oilers used to rock a clean cowboy hat. Like we need Yellowstone's it's fallen off, but with Yellowstone and all this stuff, like Cowboys are kind of coming back. Like we need Sarkisian or who did A&M?
Sonny Dykes at TCU maybe could pull it off.
Yeah. Who did Texas A&M hire? I forget.
Mike Elko from Duke. I don't see that.
Nah.
Yeah,
he doesn't have. He's got a big head.
Yeah.
You can't go cowboy
10-gallon hat.
Somebody in Texas has got to be able to pull off a cowboy hat.
Yeah, I mean,
I don't think Sark's the guy.
So this is a small complaint amongst everything, but Justin,
maybe Houston. Who's at Houston now?
Ooh,
It's not Holgerson. He got fired, right? Or is it still Dana Holgerson?
It's Holgerson still.
Okay. Dana Holgerson at Houston needs to rock a cowboy hat.
Mike Gundy at Oklahoma State, I could see it. With
Gundy,
the mullet coming out the bottom.
How is he not coached?
That'd be awesome.
He's coached in everything but.
Yeah.
He's got that belt, the clearly cowboy belt with belt buckle.
And they are the Cowboys, so that would kind of make sense.
How has he not gone cowboy
That would
hat
totally make sense.
On the sideline?
But yeah, I mean, I think just a small, mild complaint from someone I know it's more comfortable for the coaches and everything else. I think we lost a lot of the classiness during COVID where, again.
Oh, don't even get me started on the basketball coaches not wearing suits.
Right, I'm again, whether it's, I love my Beaver coaches, whether it's Scott Ruick or Wayne Tinkle or, Chauncey Billups or whoever. You guys, awesome. But, man, you all cleaned up when you wore awesome suits, man. And I really miss the suit look.
Especially in college. Maybe not, and I know some coaches do it, maybe not every game.
They wear what I'm wearing right now, Justin.
I
a
know.
literal zip-up polo.
But, how about, for a big game? A big rival, we're going to go
baby.
suit. Yeah.
I know. Sorry, complaint. All right, let's get into to some more make or miss here, Justin.
Gundy's got to wear a cowboy hat.
Dude, we can.
It'd be awesome.
We need to work on that somehow. They'll be like, the people from Oregon.
The moment he starts wearing it, though, everybody's gonna be like, has Coach Gundy lost his mind? It's also a headset thing, I think, right?
Yeah.
Because back in the 70s, you could wear the cowboy hat, and there was 2 coaches that had a headset. Dude. Now everybody's got a headset.
So here's the thing, though, Justin. Get you a cowboy hat, and then get you, instead of a headset, that cool TED Talk mic, and you're set.
Todd Graham could have rocked the cowboy hat because he had the Britney Spears.
That's the cool mic, man. I'm just saying, we need more coach of that mic, too. All right, but let's get into make or miss. Spring football is here, and that means massive overreactions and predictions.
And everybody's in a good mood in spring football. Everybody's feeling great. Even
he's Heisman watch, Justin. Preseason Heisman watch, man. I mean,
great participation. Everybody's bought in, right? Everybody, we're all getting on the same page. I feel like the culture around here is really good. All that stuff. It is a tried and true tradition. So many things in college football are changing right before our eyes, and I don't like a lot of the change. But one of the things that is not changing in our world is the overreaction during spring football. Now, we haven't got to the spring game yet, and when the spring games come around, you'll even see even more of whoa, did you see that? But yeah. What's fun during spring football is the I'm hearing. And you probably see it on your message boards. I'm hearing such and such coming in 20 pounds heavier, bigger than we thought. I'm hearing this guy Well, you guys, keep an eye on. It's the I'm hearing and the keep an eye on is the best. I love it. I love it. In a world of negativity, I prefer optimism, and I love spring football time where there is such optimism, right? Everybody's going to a bowl this year. Everybody's got a chance at a 12-team playoff. I think our coach is the right guy. All the transfers coming in are perfect. All the transfers that went out, we don't like them.
Yeah, they weren't helpful. Yeah, it's like, nah, better off.
It's really an addition by subtraction there, guys. Like, I love it. I love it.
It literally is like, it is quality offers reference. It's like Michael Scott talking to the camera. Well, we lost Dwight Schrute. He was the number one salesman in the company. And he's like, addition by subtraction.
Addition by subtraction.
That makes no sense. Yeah, Justin, you lose the top salesman in the company, like, it'll just work out, right? So,
but all the transfers that left didn't need them. Weren't even and all the transfers that are in, great. Other thing that I love, freshmen enroll early, right? Guys that should be at, like, spring break and prom, right? Things that should be on their minds. They're 17 or 18 and should be worried about spring break and prom. And no, they're here. They're on campus. They're living in dorms. They're at spring football. And, oh, boy, do we eat it up. It's like, oh. And I remember when Ty Thompson did it at Oregon. Ty Thompson was there. And look, he might. Guy didn't play for 3 years. And I wish him the best, and I hope he turns out to be a tremendous football player. But, yeah, he didn't play for 3 years.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember.
But, no, the freshmen that come in and skip school and are like, you're going to get the playbook, and they're going to hit the ground running.
In my personal experience, like, freshmen, it can happen. Typically, it's more like, because you're right, like, it is a bit overblown, but at the same token, like, unless you're Vernon Adams, there aren't a whole lot of guys who can come in August and just be number one on the depth chart, unless it is just so with that, it's like JUCO guys are the ones that I keep an eye on. Usually a freshman doesn't make a huge difference whether he's there in spring or August. Maybe he's ready to contribute a little bit more, but he's not going to be like number one. Now, a JUCO guy, he comes in January. He could be ready to go by August. So I think it's different, but you're right. It's usually a little overblown. Like, oh, he's here. He's ready to go. Not quite that way.
It's going to be great, right? Everything is...
and you're right. Everyone goes, oh, he skipped prom.
Skipping prom to be here for the program. That shows culture. That's a culture builder right there. Watch out for this guy. And then there will be a great performance in the spring game, and everybody get all excited about it. And that guy's not going to play because it's a spring game. And then there'll be the summer, and in the summer, be like, oh, boy, I'm hearing huge things in the weight room. I'm hearing huge things in the weight room. It's going to be the best. It's going to be the best. All right. We're going to wrap up hour number 2 with stuff I saw on the internet. This is stuff I see in real life, though. Saving you money in 2024. That's right. That's what we all are looking for. This year, every year, for crying out loud, is saving some money. Well, how about updating your roofing, your siding, your windows, even your bathroom to energy efficiency from DeBella, which can not only save you money with your energy bills each and every month, but you don't have to pay a nickel until 2025 with zero down on approved credit. That's right. DeBella's is offering an amazing financing opportunity of zero down and no payments until 2025 on approved credit for upgrading your roofing, your windows, your siding, your bathrooms. Plus, all of that can create energy efficiency in your house, which can save you money while you're not paying until 2025. How about solar shingles on your roof? Solar shingles, not only with that energy efficiency that I talked about, but with federal and state incentives, could also potentially pay for a brand new roof. Their estimates are always free. They are convenient. They are super easy, and they are scheduled on a time that works for you. Plus, 15,000 5-star reviews. Those 5-star reviews earned by the workers there at DeBella. You could be the next 5-star review there on Google. Accolades from Angie's List, Home Advisor. You've probably even seen them in Better Homes and Garden and HGTV. So check out DeBella right now for a free, no-obligation appointment for roofing, windows, siding, bath renovation. Contact DeBella, the Oregon experts, today. All right, it's time for stuff I saw on the internet. I spend entirely too much time on my phone. I spend entirely too much time on the internet. Brenden, I don't know how much time you spend on the internet while you're on vacation. Hopefully you put the phone down a bit, just soaking up the good vibes and soaking up the... what did I see? Let me dissect this this picture you sent me, because I did not want to bother you. I did not want to bother you while you were on vacation. I think I did a pretty good job, and I sent you one text, and I said, I hope you're having a good time. Just so you know, Thursday's taken care of. Don't worry about it, and I just wanted us both on the same page. And
I think it would be apropos to read my response word for word.
You said life is grand. And let's see, you are in a hammock. You have some sort of floral shirt on, and you've got a tequila seltzer. How many of those you suck down there, big boy?
Not as much as you think. It wasn't really one of those trips.
I could drink those all day.
Yeah, it wasn't really.
I could drink those things all day.
Yeah, it wasn't really a trip where it was kind of like I can say, like in Mexico, I can say.
What is this shirt you're wearing? Because here's the other thing. We spend a good 4 hours with each other each and every day, but for the most part, we stay out of each other's lives. It would be a little bit much if we hung out after the show, because we spend so much time sitting and talking to each. So I know your work wardrobe, which consists mostly of quarter zips, right? That's what Brenden wears.
Call
to
me a
work.
basketball coach these days.
He wears quarter zips. That's just what he is. Sometimes it's a Pac-12 one, sometimes it's an Oregon State one, sometimes it's a Blazer one. Brenden loves quarter zips. That's what he wears. And you know what? I am also a minimalist. I wear jeans and either a t-shirt or like a Henley shirt. That's it. That's what I wear. I think it's a morning show thing. You want to eliminate options because options just take up time. Time equals not sleeping. So moving on. So I know you from wearing quarter zips, and that's about it. What is this shirt you're wearing in this picture?
It's a long sleeve rash guard.
Rash guard.
Oh yeah, because
is that for because of the sun, like the sunscreen?
Long sleeve shirts that are
I've heard that's like a thing now. Not the millennials, but the Gen Zers are going away from sunscreen and going towards the long sleeve. And as a guy who lives in sunscreen for a good 6 months out of the year, I'm intrigued.
Yeah. No, like I said,
I don't know if I'm ready for the long sleeve though.
Other than my nose, which got a little burned on day one. It's kind of the thing down there. They're extremely comfortable. It should surprise you very least, Justin. I was in the water an awful lot. It's like when I go floating in the summer. My happy place in the world is being in water.
Even with the gators down there. And the piranhas, which I'm assuming.
Alligators are freshwater. There's no freshwater in the Keys.
Okay.
Crocodiles would be down there. However, I think humans have scared them into the Everglades enough.
All right, so.
But no,
no crocodiles. What about like piranhas or barracudas or other things that can
There's this really
murder
cool
you?
place, Justin, where you go just off the coast. So you go off like maybe 10-minute boat ride off of the coast of the Keys. And you get to this area called the Sandbar. And the Sandbar is where it's probably this strip of like near beach that's like, everything's like 2-3 feet deep. And everyone goes out there, you beach your boat, get in a big circle, and then it's just like a big party.
The big party right
and
there. Zach Brown sang about that, I believe, one time.
No, it's
toes in the water.
It's something
in the
else,
sand.
man. It's something, put it this way, a little different than our ocean here. Just a little bit.
But yeah, I saw the thing, because I know every spot on my body that is sneaky, that if you miss it with the sunscreen, will get you. Back of the ear. Everybody forgets back of the ear. Top of the foot. Top of the foot's one.
Bad.
People forget you wear flip-flops. Top of the feet. Nose is a sneaky one. But usually it's always the back of the ears and like the armpit, like the under armpit, if you don't get it. But if you wear a long sleeve shirt or it's a rash guard.
Yeah.
They need to come up with another name for that.
So like everybody,
because rash guard, like I see what it's a very appropriate name, but like they need a new name for that.
Yeah, it's one of the things.
It's like a sun shirt, isn't that what also they're called? They're called sun shirts.
Yeah, it's kind of a locals thing. Like whenever when I got.
So you assimilate to the locals. You walk in, you go, "Hey, how you doing? Florida Brenden here."
It was really hard. There was a position
because there is Florida Stanley on The Office, and there is Florida Brenden.
I saw
Your eyes light up when you talk about
I saw a
Florida.
help wanted sign for a deckhand. It was
Yeah, I almost got another text.
it was a little
It's
close.
like a text.
I'm just kidding. But hey, man,
I am now second mate Brenden, Justin. I apologize. Best of luck, but I got to go swab the deck right now. I live on the ocean, my friend.
You had nothing to worry about, Justin, because one thing I did
You
learn.
think you can make it as a man about sea? I don't think I could. I don't
Well,
get motion
as
sickness,
you
but
know,
I
it'd
don't know
be-
the whole port to port thing.
Yeah, it'd be a different climate, but as you know, that's a lot of what my family and I did growing up. We did fishing and hunting quite a
No,
bit.
I'm talking about working on a boat.
Oh,
like
yeah.
that's your job. You think you could be a deckhand?
Totally. Now, again, from some talks down there,
You got to get out
Justin,
and scrape that coral off.
minimum wage in Florida is about half of what we make here in Oregon. So
Yeah,
it's
but we are the-
I heard some comments from some locals. It can be a little tough to live.
Yeah, but also, I don't know if you saw this on the internet, but other than Massachusetts, nobody was taxed more than the citizens of the state of Oregon. Now, that's not politics. We're going to do politics on this.
I think I did see that.
But I did see that on the internet. I was like, oh, we're in second place. Income taxed.
But yeah, you give me an option,
Hey-
Justin, to be a deckhand in a warm climate. Now,
Yeah.
could I be a deckhand here? No. Deckhand deadliest catch? No. But
Yeah.
warm climate?
You're like, hey,
Pull
you
it
wouldn't
off.
make it a week, Greenhorn.
No.
That's what they
gosh,
do up
no. But warm climate? I could rock it, I think.
You think. All right, we have got hour number 3 coming up. Tyson Alger is going to join the show. We've got the RCM mailbag. More news on the NCAA football game. The Manning family, boy, they just
keep doing it.
they never stop, do they? That's next. 620 Rip City Radio. It is 8 a.m. on a Wednesday morning. Justin Myers with you. Blazers back in action tonight. They will return to Moda Center against the Oklahoma City Thunder. Injury report still not good, but better than it was, as DeAndre Ayton was listed as doubtful. He was out for the previous 3 games. Also out is Scoot Henderson and Malcolm Brogdon. But Jeremy Grant, Matisse Thybulle both listed as questionable for a potential game-time decision tonight. Tip-off is at 7. Pre-game coverage begins at 4:30 here on 620 Rip City Radio. More changes underway in Seattle. Jamal Adams, Quandre Diggs, and Will Dissly all cut to save cap space. Speaking of former Seahawks, Russell Wilson, it was announced yesterday that the Denver Broncos are cutting him and moving on. They have also allowed Russell Wilson to speak to other teams up until the official cut day, which I believe is a week away. Tyson Alger is going to be joining the show in 20 minutes. He's never going to be on the chopping block. Plus, we have got an interesting developing situation with the Blazers starting right now on 620 Rip City Radio. All right, welcome to hour number 3 of Rip City Mornings. You know, one of the things in the NBA that you have to be careful of, and that is something becoming a status symbol. I understand that the NBA, in terms of player profiles, there is no bigger league. The NFL is about the shield. The NFL is about the logos on the helmet. The NFL is about the Steelers and the Cowboys and the Giants. And sure, there are superstars in the NFL, don't get me wrong, but the NFL is more about the Packers and the Buccaneers as opposed to actual superstar players. It's the shield, it's the logos, it's the teams. That's the selling factor. And one of the things that David Stern did back in the 90s that was very, very smart is he took the NBA away from being about the teams, right? It's the Lakers and the Celtics and the Sixers, and made it about the players. And you just saw that in promos. Michael Jordan and the Bulls take on Patrick Ewing and the Knicks Sunday on the NBA on NBC. Felt like every morning of my childhood weekends. I'd watch Inside Stuff with Ahmad Rashad. Shout out to Ahmad Rashad. Great Oregon Duck. Tacoma, Washington guy. But I'd watch Inside Stuff, and then it would be like, Hakeem Olajuwon, and it would always be Marv Albert. Hakeem Olajuwon and the Rockets will be taking on Charles Barkley and the Suns. The NBA on NBC. And that's how they changed the marketing of the NBA. And why wouldn't you? You had Michael Jordan, right? When you got Michael Jordan, and then became, the trickle-down effect where there was never a true superstar in the 90s, the same stature of Michael Jordan, but rising tide lifted all boats. Karl Malone, Charles Barkley, every member of the Dream Team, other than Magic and Larry, who already were established superstars. But every member of the Dream Team, that rising tide lifted that boat, and we kind of overvalued some of them just because of the way that we marketed basketball in the 90s. Became kind of a status symbol. And then in the 2000s, kind of the same thing. And we talk about it all the time now. Demanding a trade. It's about a status symbol. I can do it because I am a superstar. Load management. Load management went from being a necessary thing to gain a competitive advantage in the NBA to almost kind of being a status symbol. I don't have to play on a Tuesday. I'm a superstar. I got to get ready for the playoffs. Status symbol. That kind of stuff. And it seems as though there's a new standard. Used to be like retirement, jersey retirement, right? Retire the numbers. No better honor, no bigger honor in a professional sports setting outside of maybe the Hall of Fame. No bigger honor than having the organization declare that your jersey shall never be worn again. And you will hang from the rafters your name and your number for eternity. Well, we've taken it a step further. Brenden, I don't know if you've noticed there's a lot of statues being built around the NBA. Dwayne Wade's getting a statue. Kobe's got 3. They're putting 3.
Kobe deserves about 24, but that's okay.
Neither here nor there.
I'm just being silly, but yes.
In and around crypto.com, Kobe's going to have 3 statues. Now, I don't
How many
know
for the king, though?
I don't know if Jordan was the first. Jordan was the first that I remember. The Jumpman statue outside of the United Center, when they went from the old Chicago Stadium to the United Center, boom, Michael Jordan's got a statue. And, in college football, usually coach wins a national championship. Saban's got a statue. I think Bobby Bowden's got a statue, right? The coach, like the legendary coaches who with Bear Bryant's got a statue. There's one coach that had a statue. That statue's gone.
We talking college specifically?
It's college coaches who've had statues.
Because my favorite is the Eagles having Doug Peterson and then firing him. There's a statue of Doug Peterson.
He won a Super Bowl,
and
though.
Nick Foles outside of their arena.
Yeah.
Then they fired him.
But so a whole thing of like, and they were having a debate yesterday, shockingly, on First Take, of like, who deserves a statue? And
fair.
Steph Curry came up as number 1, and I'm like, yeah, of all the players in the league right now, if LeBron's going to get one, in Cleveland, he should have one in Cleveland, nowhere else. If I were the czar of all sports, LeBron would get a statue in Cleveland. He would not get a statue anywhere else. His one championship in Cleveland mattered so much more than anything he did in Miami and so much more than anything he did in L.A. He should have a statue in Cleveland. That is it. But so the talk of like, because I think Shaq just got his number retired in Orlando. He was in Orlando for like 4 years. Now it was kind of a magical run, but they made it to the finals, but he was there for like 4 years. We know Shaq as a Laker. Shaq's a Laker. He is. Does he have a statue? I think so. Is there a Shaq statue? There should be. So there's been a lot of talk. And
yep, outside of crypto.
Boom. And Dwayne Wade just got a statue outside of arena in Miami that used to be after a crypto con artist scheme. I don't know what it's called now. It was. Bankman, is it Bankman Fried? Wasn't that the dude?
Old FDX, man. Now it's the Kaseya Center.
All right, way to go. But like Dwayne Wade got a statue.
Right.
Now, again, Dwayne Wade's got 3 championship rings, one of which without LeBron, but pretty good in terms of Miami Heat basketball player. Dwayne Wade's he's the guy. He's number 1. He was there before, during, after LeBron. He is the Miami Heat. Great championship run. So Adam Drexler, son of Clyde Drexler, went on Twitter yesterday. And look, I understand sticking up for your dad. But Adam Drexler threw this tweet out yesterday. It says, "Hey, Rip City, got a question for you. Why does my father not have a statue in Portland?" And I was like, but I think we should talk about this. This is an interesting topic. Because again, be careful when something becomes a status symbol. And I'm not saying that Clyde Drexler is requesting a status symbol, but an organization or a basketball fan base might think, well, they get statues, then we all get statues, right? When you've won 1 championship in 1977 and do not have another championship banner to your name, I don't think you get statues. When you have one player back in the 70s who was MVP of the league and have not had an MVP of the league since, I don't think you get statues. And I think it's one of the things that we struggle with here in old Rip City is that not all organizations are – the Lakers get statues. You want to know why? They win rings. They win rings. Do they have an advantage of being in L.A.? 100%. 100% they have had an advantage. They were able to steal Shaq. They were able to kind of steal Paul Gasol. The Lakers get rings. They get statues. Michael Jordan gets a statue for obvious reasons. 6 rings, legendary status. This is not a knock to Clyde Drexler. It's, I think, an overall. We don't have any player in the history of the Blazers organization, including Damian Lillard, whom I've said is still the greatest Blazer of all time. None of them deserve a statue. MVPs and championships. That's legacy stuff. Now, you got that look in your eye, which let's do it. Let's have some fun. It's been a while.
I don't disagree with Clyde. I don't think somebody who is silent, I mean, he embraces Houston far more than Portland. And that's a part of it for me, too.
Now, part of what Adam Drexler said on Twitter is he said he doesn't even really embrace Houston. He doesn't really say anything publicly, but neither here nor there. Even if Clyde Drexler was captain,
At Blazer games?
was captain pinwheel, I still don't think a guy who did not win MVP. He was very good. And if Michael Jordan wasn't in the league, would he have an MVP back in 1992? Maybe. But I still don't think a guy who didn't win an MVP and who didn't win a championship, got to the finals twice, and can't ever take that away. But to think that statues are on the same level of like Dwayne Wade, who's got 3 rings and was the MVP of the finals in at least one of those. I know in 2005 he was. Even with Shaq on his team, he was the best player.
Yeah,
or Kobe or Michael Jordan or Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. Like I know that we all here in the Pacific Northwest, we all want to play the game. I get it. We all want to be in the cool kids club. Ain't nobody getting a statue outside of Moda Center / Rose Garden / whatever we want to call it into the future until a banner is raised on the inside of that bad boy.
I agree. I think for me, because again, I think the Blazers
the standard is just so low.
I think the Blazers got a little haphazard when they won that first championship. And again, they're great championship, but not everybody who had their number retired necessarily needed to. They basically enshrined that whole team.
Are you saying is a number retirement curse hanging over this organization, Brenden, that they retired too many numbers off to that 77 team, and because of that, they set a precedent that if you win a championship, you could retire all of them, and that has cursed this organization?
Not quite, but it's not the craziest thing I've heard. For me, and again, pound for pound, I said this after Dame left. I think Dame is probably the most talented Blazer. I think Clyde is probably the most consistent winner of a Blazer. But to me, Justin, you know where I always land. Winners get sprinkles.
Yeah.
Give me a statue of Dr. Jack and Bill Walton.
There you go.
That's what I want. They are the only ones who have done it in this city. And you're right. You know, for me, a part of it is I don't know if in 20, I would be more apt to give Damian Lillard a statue. Because even in the 3 months that Damian Lillard's been gone, he's been like, yeah, I'd like to go back to Portland. Clyde never. There's just not a culture with him wanting to come back to Portland. And if I'm wrong,
there might
please reach out, but I just don't see him.
But there was also other things kind of in play
that
as
he
well.
was traded. They didn't build him the team.
And they were rebuilding the team and fired certain guys.
I get
and
that. Very
coaches
similar
and
to
all
Dame.
that. But to me, whether a player embraces this, because I don't know if like Jordan hasn't really embraced the Chicago Bulls since he's left. He's sat and he has dunked on Jerry Krause from the grave the entire time. He hasn't really embraced the Bulls, but that's Michael Jordan, right? Now Dwayne Wade is like Mr. Heat, but that's what I'm saying is.
Is there a Dirk statue? There has to be outside of Dallas.
I don't know. I've Googled that. Let's see if there's a Dirk Nowitzki statue outside of.
Yeah, they built the Dirk
So
statue.
they built a Dirk statue.
That's awesome.
But he won a championship, right?
That's
the
winners get sprinkles.
And parades and banners and memories and everything else. That's, again, which is why I think maybe Dame's got a little. We'll see what happens with this thing in Milwaukee. May have a little regret because, whomever wins the next championship for the Blazers, if in fact it will ever happen, who knows? We don't know. The world's strange. Whoever wins it,
they'll get a key to the city. Quite literally.
An actual key that opens every door.
Oh, they will. Absolutely.
It's not a ceremonial key. It'll be like, no, this opens every door.
Yeah, it's you're good.
You get to Justin's house in Woodstock. You can just walk right in. You are well within your rights in the city of Portland limits. You can do, whoever does, forget a statue. You might get a hologram or something,
Justin,
whatever we're doing at that particular time.
They would pull
with regards to technology, but man, nobody gets a statue for an organization that hasn't won hasn't won a championship since cable TV.
Well, and I'll tell
They
you
don't get
this.
statues.
Timely reference, Justin. You know, the team that won the championship for the Blazers, it would be like that whole team, say they won the championship after the parade was over. They would collectively, as a team, go to the city of Portland, and it would be like the Armageddon scene where they're making their demands.
Yeah, none of us want to pay taxes ever
again, ever. And Portland would be like, yeah, sounds great. Oh, gosh, classic. But no, I say Dr. Jack and Bill Walton is my vote. Together, somehow, some way, shape, or form. That would be the only statue I would approve of for now.
And I know, let's see. I want to get this right. Rip City Comanche. He's Bill Schonley. I mean,
Oh, the Shawns?
so
Okay.
there's now at, I'm going to make this real quick, though, because we got Tyson Alger waiting in the wings. At now T-Mobile, then Safeco, there is a Dave Niehaus statue, legendary broadcaster Dave Niehaus, where he's kind of sitting there and, like, it's a cool statue because you can sit next to him like you're calling the game with Dave, my oh my. And, like, that's kind of a cool thing to do. Not exactly the same as the Griffey statue out front. You know what I mean? Like, Griffey also won MVPs. So that's how you, like, never won a championship, got it, but yeah, Griffey won MVPs and was the best player of his generation. Sorry, Barry Bonds. All right, Tyson Alger. He joins the show next, 620 Rip City Radio. All right, it is Wednesday. It is a little bit after 8:20. You know what time it is. It is time to hop on the I-5 corridor. We going north, we going south. We may go both. We haven't made up our mind yet, but joining us on the ride is the owner, CEO, the creator of the I-5 corridor, head writer, and, head of the PR team as well. Tyson Alger back on the big show. Good morning, Tyson. How we doing, bud?
Good. Thankfully, we haven't had to utilize the PR team a whole lot yet.
Yeah.
There hasn't been any crisis
scandals.
management. We drill it every Thursday though, so we're ready. We're ready.
I mean, I don't want to call out the corridor, but I believe there was a tweet that talked about a particular drive from Eugene to Portland that I don't know if it was you or if the corridor said that was the worst drive ever. And it was just it was a little bit of rain that was going on. And if I'm not mistaken, the corridor was famous for I think an 8-hour standstill on I-5.
Yeah,
I mean, how do we square that?
The thing is I got pretty good content out of the standstill, and it was a couple hours into the standstill I realized that I was generating said content.
Yeah.
The drive back from Eugene after the Oregon State game, this was last Wednesday night. It was dry on the drive down, it was completely fine, and then on the way back, it was a river. It was a river for the entire. It was a river for the entire 100 miles, and I'm proud of the way that I'm able to navigate a hydroplaning Mazda 3 at 65 miles an hour. But man, I'm not worried about my driving ability in snow and ice. I was born in that. I was raised in it. The completely not being able to see 5 feet in front of your car as it's blowing 30 miles an hour and pouring down rain, that's a different beast for me. I don't care for that.
I've told my wife, like I said, I'm comfortable in the way that I'm driving. I don't trust everybody else. Shockingly, that does not bring her comfort when driving in adverse conditions. But you know what? Hey, you made it. We're here. We got some stuff to talk about. I want to talk some hockey real quick, and not in a joking, snarky, sarcastic way, Tyson, that I normally talk about hockey.
You want to talk about the big guy?
Yeah, I do. You went up to Seattle. You went and watched the Seattle Kraken, and they took on the Pittsburgh Penguins. You got to watch Sidney Crosby play. Now, this. The listening audience probably can guess this. I'm a bit of a hockey novice, and so I am not asking this question as a joke. I'm actually intrigued. Gretzky's the legend. He's the great one. He's the standard setter. What's the comp for Sidney Crosby? Is he like little LeBron James of hockey? Are there kids out there that maybe try to make the argument that Crosby's better than Gretzky, and then old people like me have to shut them down? What's the comp for Sidney Crosby in the hockey world?
It's very comparable to LeBron, minus the fact that I think Gretzky's kind of still in a different stratosphere, but also a lot of that, the plumbers that they talk about Jordan played against. You should go see some of the goalies Gretzky used to score against in the 80s. But it's pretty crazy because Crosby and LeBron came into their respective leagues basically at the same time. They came in as the saviors, or as Crosby's nickname at first was the next one. And if you look here, 20 years later, he's still in the league. He's still one of the best players in the league. He's got, I think, 3 Stanley Cups. He's a top 5 player of all time. He might not have the final argument that LeBron does for, ultimately challenging for the GOAT status. But in terms of completely living up to your billing and not really misstepping publicly either, Crosby and LeBron are very comparable figures, and it's quite kind of stunning that their careers have mirrored each other along the same times as well.
It is interesting. You and I are very fortunate in our jobs. We get to watch a lot of live sports, but sometimes you don't get to pick and choose. And I was surprised when he's like, hey, for the first time ever watching Sidney Crosby, for as big of a hockey fan as you are, and I kind of thought about, I never got to watch Michael Jordan play. I lived watching him play on TV. Came real close with Tiger Woods, which I'm going to talk about here in a moment, but what was that like to watch a guy as a big hockey fan as you are, who you have watched on TV, on the internet, for like all of these years to then go and kind of see like the presence of the guy there in the building.
Yeah, it was insane for me. Where I grew up in Alaska, like you just didn't ever get to see stars. They were always just kind of like the people on TV or the guys you read about in Sports Illustrated. And, moving down to Portland and being here in the lower 48, I didn't grow up like the biggest basketball fan. So it didn't really kind of click for me that like stars were continually coming to this city. And so kind of becoming an NBA fan later, I've made it a point to like I've gone and seen LeBron and some of the bigger NBA stars when they've come through, but to like be able to drive from my house 3 hours north and see a hockey player that I grew up watching highlights on dial-up YouTube when it first came out in like 2005, that was really cool. And it's kind of like one of those things too where, and you've been in enough stadiums at this point, where it's striking how kind of normal and mundane it also feels. It's just like, oh yeah, there's some like dudes going about their warm-ups, like this is their job. But at the same time, it's like, oh my gosh, that's Sidney Crosby. And he didn't really do a whole lot in the game that would, make you go like, oh my gosh, I was there at that game. But I have way too much gigabytes on my phone of me just videoing him as he was skating up and down the ice that I'm never going to watch again. So
I was it's not even really a regret. It wasn't even my fault. But when the U.S. Open was in Tacoma a handful of years ago, and I got a media pass to the U.S. Open, and I was like, sweet. I know he wasn't, and at the time he was not playing as well as he did in his prime. But I'm like, I'm going to get to watch Tiger Woods swing a golf club. Like, this is going to be great. And I went, and because of like work stuff, like I was like, all right, I'm going to go Friday afternoon, and then I'll be there all day Saturday. And Tiger Woods teed off Friday morning, tweaked his back, did not make the cut, and I never got to watch Tiger Woods swing a golf club. That one still haunts me. Is the I missed Tiger Woods by about an hour and a half.
I'm sure I've shared this with you probably on here before, but the first Mariners game I covered as 21-year-old intern at the Oregonian was the day after Ken Griffey Jr. retired. And so we got to go into the locker room. This player that I grew up worshiping, his stuff was still in the locker.
Was the recliner still there?
It was everything was still there, but at this point, like I think he was probably in like Great Falls, Montana on his drive back down to Florida, and I was like, but part of me was actually kind of relieved about that because Griffey could be surly at times, and I didn't want to necessarily like meet my hero in that instance, especially at that point of his career.
Tyson Alger joining us here on 620 Rip City Radio. You mentioned the game against Oregon State a week ago. So Oregon got the win in the final civil war of the Pac-12 era. They may face each other in the Pac-12 tournament. I don't know how the brackets work out, but probably won't because neither team's really playing all that great of basketball right now, Tyson. But it's kind of been a thing. We did it during football, and now, especially with the Oregon State rivalry, final time these two teams. Who knows if the game will continue to be scheduled? I don't think it's going to hold on to the same importance as football is going to, where obviously it's going to be sponsored, even though it's in September. It's still going to be every single year. I mean, it is kind of weird thinking like that might be the last time for a long, long time, depending on certain circumstances, that Oregon State play each other in hoops.
Yeah, it's kind of it's a little perplexing to me that we went through all of this kind of goodbye and the emotional stuff with football, and with basketball, I feel like it's just kind of we're waiting for the credits to roll, and maybe part of that has been just the fact that this is outside of the Oregon State women's team. This has been a pretty dreadful season of hoops, like across the entire state. So yeah, it's. Oregon won the season series. I kind of beg anybody to run through like their favorite memories from the last 10 years of that rivalry. They probably can't come up with like too many of them. I know they've played some close games, but it's just kind of been an extra to kind of the Oregon State rivalry for the last few years. Like I don't think it's comparable to some of when you've had the baseball teams both really good. I don't think it's the same as football, obviously. yeah, it's just kind of sad because especially if you go back and look at some of the history of this thing, and that's a very, very long rivalry that they've played basketball against each other. There's been some absolutely great moments, but yeah, this one just kind of faded into the darkness.
Tyson Alger from the I-5 corridor joining us here on 620 Ripster. Yeah, it was like there was like the end of The Office, but like, the show really ended when Steve Carell left. You know what I mean? It's like football season ended. It's like we're still gonna have like Pam and Jim and Dwight, but it's not like the same as and bringing this Robert California guy. That's about kind of what Pac-12 basketball feels like. It's like, all right, it all looks the same. The uniforms and the colors and everything else and the history's still there, but yeah, it is. Let's just say Pac-12 basketball, other than Washington State, not really finishing strong.
Yeah, and it's such a shame too because I for quite a while I was really kind of looking forward to the upcoming men's Pac-12 tournament, and I think that's really been. We've really pointed out the follies of the Pac-12 over the last couple of years, but I think the Pac-12 tournament on the hoop side has been like one of like the few things that they've gotten right. And, obviously maybe Arizona is competitive this year, but outside of that, like this is just a dreadful conference. And it's just, it's even if Oregon can put together a run, like I don't trust them to win three or four or whatever it has to be in a row to certify an NCAA tournament spot. So it's just kind of like, yeah, Vegas, baby, right? it's just a downer this year,
Well, and it's because, it's been a hard thing for me to even kind of comprehend, Tyson, and because I remember when it was Pac-10 basketball, when it was as big of a deal, maybe not as big of a deal as football, but Pac-10 basketball, when Oregon was playing at MacArthur Court and, Kevin Love was there at UCLA and, Arizona had like Gilbert Arenas and Richard Jefferson and you had all of these great players, Brandon Roy at Washington, and the rivalries were there. And then just I don't know if it was just kind of the changing of the times. I don't know if it was just a weird lull, but there just hasn't been a stretch run of Pac-12 basketball that could live up to early to mid 2000s when I think you could say this conference was kind of in its heyday.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, you can kind of look at the two teams from the 2010s that were expected to carry that torch. Like one of them was Arizona, and they were very successful. And then it kind of blew up with Sean Miller. And then the Ducks were the other one. And they're the kind of the program that's struggling to adapt that into this new era. And I mean, we all kind of thought UCLA was going to be there with Cronin, and they're really struggling. And, it's just kind of up and down the conference. There's not really that one sustainable program that we kind of used to see that you could pencil in and be like, this is going to be a Sweet 16 team every year. Like that's just non-existent in the Pac-12.
Tyson Alger from the I-5 corridor, friend of the program, joining us here on 620 Rip City Radio. There were some rumors circulating. I think Matt Preem was the one that asked the official question to Dana Altman that it was their talk of retirement. And I think it's a fair question considering the way that last season ended and the odd comments of like, man, I'll just go coach junior college somewhere. And then this season, while seemingly he is having a better time coaching this team, it still comes with his fair share of frustrations. I was surprised that he dropped the I'm not going anywhere as a guy who's kind of hinted every once in a while. But in terms of his own decision to leave, which I don't think with Oregon going into the Big Ten, they're going to make any big decisions with a head coach. But I thought it was interesting that Dana Altman was so adamant, like, yeah, I'm not going anywhere.
Yeah, and maybe part of that is just to kind of like quell it a little bit or at least to rule out, the retirement side of things. Mm-hmm. I think people have been kind of cautious to be like, oh, maybe it's time for Oregon to move on from Altman. But I think people have maybe tried to do the connection of like maybe they'll mutually part ways, and Altman decides that right off at some community college in Kansas. But I think ultimately it's as we said before, like this is a competitive guy. This is a guy who wants to win. It's a guy who has an earned ego to him. The retirement questions are fair. Like he's 64 years old. It's a changing time of college basketball. They haven't had the most success recently. Like I think it's completely fair for those to arise. But at least one end of the equation of Altman's potential future with the Ducks is answered, because it doesn't sound like he's going to be leaving on his own accord.
All right, let's get into stuff where I am not. I mentioned at the beginning of the segment, Tyson, I'm a hockey novice. Basketball, I'm a fan, but let's get into something I would consider myself an expert, because the Corridor tweeted out a monthly spotlight on restaurants and bars. Now, let me tell you, Tyson, I am an expert when it comes to restaurants and bars. Never worked in them, but in terms of being in as a patron, I am. I feel like I am. What are the there's elite level like on video games. I don't play video games, but I am at that level in terms of restaurants and bars. But you and the Corridor decided to take on the Herculean task of throwing out on the X app restaurant and bar recommendations, especially in this city where you can't throw a rock and find somebody that doesn't say, "Oh, you got to try this."
Yeah, you've put in your 10,000 hours.
I really have,
or whatever you need to be considered an expert. There's just been I really enjoy following various chefs and restaurants and kind of that part of the city on Twitter. And there's been a lot of discourse lately about who made the top 40 restaurants of this company's list, or who's rated highly there. And I just know that there's a lot of good places in Portland that I've eaten at that haven't touched the list, where people work hard, they make really good food, and they don't get a whole lot of shine. And so I think part of what we wanted to do on the Corridor was just hey, if you have a place that you love to eat at that I think is a little underrepresented, let us know. We'll write a little story. It's not that hard on our end, and maybe it helps kind of lift all boats here during that tough financial time.
All right, I hesitate to do this, but I'm going to, because here's why. I know the reach of the Corridor. Okay, I know the Corridor bump, as they call it. We get it on this particular program each and every Wednesday, right? We see the numbers skyrocket. It's the Corridor bump. And the last thing I want to do is wait in line at a spot that I love in my, in my part of this great city, Tyson. But you know what? Like you said, maybe for the hardworking people that are there, but the Muddy Rudder in Selwood, off of Tacoma, let me tell you, if you right off the Selwood Bridge, right near Oaks Park, the Muddy Rudder, that's my spot. And if you go there on any particular weekend, you might see me.
I was going to say, maybe we do a little Tyson and Justin go to the Muddy Rudder and just turn it into content. It doesn't have to be a friendship thing, Justin. I know you don't want to cross those lines, but I'm happy to work professionally with you.
Tyson, here's the thing. We are friends, but I am a friend in my 40s, and, I live in Southeast. You do not. It's, to go over a bridge in this city, I don't even know if I do that for my family.
I know you're scared of the crime in my part of town. I know.
But yeah, no, we're going to do it. We're going to hang out. I know everybody in Portland says, hey, let's do that. It's kind of this, that Seattle freeze thing, that Portland freeze thing. Sure. We're doing it. You, me, the third party who's going to be listening to this, because you know who we're talking about. He's going to be there as well. We're going to go to Muddy Rudder. We're going to have a Staff Jennings pizza. We're going to have a pint of a delicious brew, and we're going to have a great time at the Rudder. We're doing it.
Sounds like an afternoon to me.
There we go. That's how we wrap this bad boy up. You can follow him at Tyson Alger. You can also follow at the I-5 Corridor. You need to be subscribed to the I-5 Corridor for great content, including on how Oregon running backs don't fumble, which means they're going to set a record for fumbling this year. You know that, right? Yeah. You did that.
The Corridor curse, baby.
We are not going to the Rudder after the first fumble of Oregon running back this upcoming football season. We're going to have words. But you need to be subscribed to the I-5 Corridor. Tyson, have a great rest of the week, bud. We'll talk to you soon.
Yeah, take care, man.
There we go. We have got the RCM mailbag. That's wrapping up the big show next. 620 Rip City Radio. All right, time to wrap up the big show. We do that the same way each and every day with the RCM mailbag. Random questions, any subject, any topic. Nothing is off limits. You know it. You love it. It is the RCM mailbag. Let's fire it up. By the way, yesterday on the Ebony and Ivory version of the RCM mailbag, we had a discussion about Girl Scout cookies. There is currently 6 boxes of Girl Scout cookies in here.
None of them are shortbreads, are they?
None of them are shortbreads, which we're going to get to.
I would have stolen them all.
You are like 4 steps ahead here.
I would have stolen them all.
Now, they're labeled Chad. So they're actually labeled, can't steal them.
Labeled Chad.
It is. Chad bought them, but there are 6 boxes. 2 Thin Mint, 2 Samoa, 2 Do-si-dos, which, I mean, if you're going to buy 3 different kinds of Girl Scout cookies and not just get 3 or 6 boxes of Thin Mints, which is what I would do, that's the way to do it. I know you are a shortbread Girl Scout cookie advocate, shall we say. You are the market. You're the reason why. If nobody bought them, why would they sell them, right? You are the reason why. I'm like, why would they sell shortbread cookies? Well, if nobody likes them, they wouldn't sell them. Of those 3, how would you a noted shortbread, how would you rank? Because to me, those are the 3 best: the Do-si-dos, the Samoas, and the Thin Mints.
Yeah.
How do you rank said Girl Scout cookies that are 8 feet away from me? And I have managed for 2 days to be tempted by Chad Doing's Girl Scout cookies and not had one. I have not had one.
Oh, gosh. Isn't everything in radio communal? Aren't we a staff that shares everything? Don't we support each other?
There is an ultimate law of put your name on it. If your name's on it, his name's on it.
Yeah, it didn't stop any roommates in college if someone labeled something. So I'm just saying, he's leaving them out.
There is nothing worse than living with a roommate in college and having like 3 slices of pizza, and and you're gonna come home from school, and you're gonna come home from like a 3:00 class, and you're like, I did not want to eat at the cafeteria specifically because I know that I've got half of a Little Caesars hot and ready sitting in the bottom of the fridge to open it up and to find it gone and get, oh, that was yours. Like fist fights.
But no, all jokes aside,
over that.
All jokes aside, yeah, protect Chad's cookies. But no, I would say that of those, because I grew up loving Samoas, so they're my number one. Matter, like that was the one that was bought. Like family loves them. That's it. I, as you know, don't particularly care for mint or chocolate. So that's down to number 3. Do-si-dos would go 2.
Do-si-dos are the peanut butter right in the middle.
But again, I'm also not naive enough to sit there and say Thin Mints aren't super popular and probably a bestseller.
But you're just not a big fan of mint chocolate chip guy.
Yeah, I'm just not a big fan. So, but I respect
them.
Do
you like mint in general, like gum, like a mint flavored gum or a mint flavored?
More of a fruity gum guy.
What about toothpaste? What kind of toothpaste you got? Because there's like every toothpaste I've ever had is mint.
Yeah, right now it's fruity.
You have fruity toothpaste?
Yeah, right now I do.
What kind?
So
they still make that?
So rabbit hole here.
Yeah.
Because I've had some trouble keeping the cavities out of my teeth. I do prescription toothpaste.
Yeah, you got the big boy stuff.
Yeah, and when I get it refilled every 3-4 months, like it'll either be mint or fruity, and I can't choose. So it's like,
oh, you get what you get.
Yeah.
Okay.
So,
I thought you actually
No. But like trying to protect these teeth because I had a root canal not too while back.
Yeah, they're expensive.
It's bad. And still,
I had one too.
Still issues and so on and so forth. But yeah, I would go that order. How about you? I mean, I know you like your Thin Mints.
I think Thin Mints are 1. Samoas are 2, barely. All good. And then the Do-si-dos are 3. But it's a tight race.
I mean, Girl Scout cookies are a big deal, considering, Justin, that there was an entire episode of The Office dedicated towards selling them to the staff members.
Yeah, well, that's
they are so.
Well, we talked about it when you were away. Like, it is the greatest business plan of all time, right? Which is sell cookies limited time, so you don't know when they're going away. Adorable kids in, berets and merit badges. And like, how do you say no to that unless you are a psychopath? Or the other business plan of that, which is having to tell someone that you are going to work with every single day that you can't fork over $20 to help out their kids. But There's always the I've already bought mine. That's kind of my go-to.
Yeah,
Sorry, I already bought some. Thank you, though. Already bought some.
Yeah, it's true. I need to get some. But question for you, Justin. This is kind of funny. Do you prefer to be cheered up or left alone?
Left alone.
When you're having a bad day.
Left alone, please.
Okay. Interesting. Yeah, I'm curious. I've always been
Which
curious.
is funny because I am the opposite. Like, wife comes home, tough day. I go into clown act. Like, court jester.
Yeah.
And, like, she'll be like, I just need 20 minutes to sit and, like, just scroll mindlessly on Instagram. Can you just give me? Like, give me a minute. And I'm like, okay.
So,
but I do. Yeah. I go into, like, court jester mode. But, yeah, for me, I need to, like, I burn hot. And then I come back. And so best thing you can do is just let me work this out. And then we're going to move on. Best thing you can also do is get those cookies out of my face. Chad, take them home. All right. Thanks to Tyson Alger. Thanks to super producer Brenden. And thanks to all of you. We're back tomorrow morning here bright and early on 620 Rip City Radio.